Welcome, everybody. Tonight, we are talking about clarity in the workplace. We hear the word everywhere: leadership, communication, expectations, strategy, conversations. It's all about AI, right? But using the word doesn't automatically create clarity, right? So, today, we want to talk about what does real clarity look like and why does it matter and what leaders can do to create it. So, Heather, could you do us a favor and start this off providing clarity on what we're going to talk about today around this topic?
I would love to, but first I have to say I absolutely cannot stand the word clarity when it's used on its own because clarity doesn't mean anything, right? So employees can't act on clarity. How can they, right? They can act on decisions, they can act on expectations, ownership, deadlines, the steps that need to be done next, but they can't act on the word clarity. And yet it is a very large AI generated word.
Yep.
Most of my actual paragraphs, when I put them into AI, the word clarity is at least once inside of it. It drives me nuts. But I'm not an anti AI person. I use AI just like the next person does.
All the time, actually.
Hey, but what I will say is that AI can help us organize our thoughts and it can help us sharpen our language, but it can't take the responsibility for the conversation. Leadership still needs to own that.
Yep.
There is still a key element where leadership has to take the ownership of what clarity actually means. But before we get started into that, let's do a quick introduction so people know who they're even spending their time with right now. So my name is Heather Mackay. I'm the CEO and founder of HM Pinnacle Consulting. I have had the opportunity to work in people operations for the last 26 years in multiple organizations all over the world. I've had a chance to see how we really engage leaders and organizations and people, and then how we don't, and what that looks like on the bottom line. And that's what created the passion behind why we started HMP, which is an organization that deals with people operations and leadership infrastructure and how we develop that into creating better and stronger cultures and a better bottom line.
My name is John Mancheski. I've been in operations for 25 years, ran multiple sites, been on senior leadership teams, multiple different states. And my passion is growing people. How do you get people, how do you create the extraordinary in someone, right? That's kind of my passion and where I come from.
And I love that. And so I'm excited to talk a little bit about what that looks like through the lens of clarity. And I'll try really hard not to get really my skin crawling when we use that word, because there is a purpose behind clarity in organizations. And so I'm kind of excited to dive into that with you.
So let's just start there. Are we becoming better communicators with AI, or are we becoming better at making unclear communication with AI sound professional?
What a great question. So I think a longer, more polished written message can still be just as confusing as a short message can be. So if you're going to use AI to help draft your communications as a leader, be careful. I need you to really stop and think about that. And I know that maybe you and I think of this differently.
Yeah, I think we do.
Okay, I'm looking forward to hearing your opinion. But one of the things that I find is that as leaders, we become lazy. And I know I've done it. I'll hit my chat GPT and I'll be like, or my Codex, and I'll be like, pull up the last 25 messages and put together responses for him for me to review. And because we become so busy as leaders, we sometimes forget AI does not have the ability to have the human connection that's necessary in communication with our teams, with our clients, whatever the case may be, right? We have to be careful to use it as a tool, not as a replacement for how we communicate. What is your opinion on that?
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and it can't think for you, right? So we're to help.
Wait, I love that. Say that again.
It can't think
AI
for you.
can't think for you.
I mean, we talked about this earlier when we were just getting ready for this. AI is only as good as the effort you put into it. I mean, if you don't get a good response out of it and someone's like, that's kind of not good, that's because you didn't put the time and effort in it to make it good. I mean, it can make you better. And that's where I come from with it is I've never been, as I've stated, I mean, I've been pretty open in these lives about the areas I struggle in.
Yeah.
And I've struggled at putting communications together the way I think, and my thoughts don't always come to my fingers. Well, I've closed the gap. So it's made me a better communicator. But I mean, I just like you, I've sent a couple when I went later. I went, well, that wasn't very smart.
Oh yeah,
right?
you have to
But
be careful on that.
it gives me the ability to put my thoughts together and helps me organize. And you asked me this earlier, and I'm going to answer this question: is what is AI good at?
Yeah.
Data. And you got data that you got to sift through or that you need to make sense of. I think anyone that's not using it for that, that's where we're losing it, right? But that's another day.
Yeah, and it's a great point of what we do or don't use AI for. And I want us to be clear, because if you went into AI right now, and I challenge many of you to try it, but if you went into AI right now and you asked it to create a message, you'd be surprised how many times a message, oh heck, even notes for a LinkedIn Live, you'd be surprised how many times it uses the word clarity. But if you really look at it, what are you clarifying? Like, there is no clarity in the clarification, right? So we need to be careful not to allow the prettier, fluffier, more put together sentences to be what we send out without the meat and potatoes behind it. Because employees have to understand, if you send nothing but fluff in your communications through AI, you'll lose them. Yeah. And then even worse, they start to second guess whether the emails came from you or whether they came from Codex, right? And so we need to be careful not to do that. It deteriorates trust with your team. So when you're doing this, make sure that you are not putting stuff into AI, being lazy about it, and not taking the time to make sure that communication is clear. I don't care how professional it sounds at times. I care how clear it is, because that's what your employees need.
I think you said something, Heather, that is we got to just talk about for a second. We want to keep the human connection.
Amen.
So we got to use the tools, but people got to feel that we're putting the effort in it to make it real and the connected. And I think there's a real connection with what you said there about if someone's like, well, Heather's not even putting thought into this. That's a problem, and we got to be careful of that. If someone knows you're using AI to make things look good, in my case, they're happy, because if I send it otherwise, it may not make sense.
Yeah.
But they got to know that my thoughts and my energy is in that email, right?
It's so true. So be very careful when you're sending emails out to make sure that you're rereading what you've had your AI help you create. And don't use the word clarity in an email. I'm just testing you on this one. If you have clarity in that message, take it out and rephrase it. Rephrase it so it actually brings some workplace clarity to it, and which is what I'm going to ask you right now. So, John, I think that one of the things we need to focus on, since we like to use that word, is what real clarity means to people in a business. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so when you asked me this the other day, right, we were talking about this about 5 days ago.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of just ultimately came out and said, expectation, execution, our KPIs, what are we going for, right? So in clear direction. So I got direction to move forward on that. And I think, I go to Heather's point is you can use clarity in an email, but to what she said is you better have bullet points of what drives clarity. Because if you're just saying, hey, do we have clarity? But you don't say, hey, do we have clarity around expectations? Do we have clarity that we need to be
who the owner is, what the decisions are? But I'd still challenge you not to use the word clarity.
Yeah.
There are many other options for what you use in that. And my only reason for that is right now, I can sift through my emails, and if someone uses the word clarity, I know that they did not create that email. So challenge yourself as a leader to think outside of the word clarity and come up with something that's real. Like, put in there, here are the expectations. Here's the outcomes. Here's a clear direction that we are going down. Here are what the next steps are, whatever it is. But try and challenge yourself to what clarity really means and dive into that with your team.
And I think a good word that replaces this.
Okay, I'm up for it.
Are we aligned?
Ooh, I love it.
Do we have alignment?
I love it. Now watch AI start using alignment.
No, but I think that is because when you ask someone, you say, hey, do we have alignment? That to your point, where clarity gets a little off is, well, what do you mean? Alignment means, hey, I understand where you want me to go, right?
Well, and clarity and alignment are two different words, and you're right, because clarity means, do you understand? Alignment means, are you in the same realm as me in the process of moving forward, right? There is a difference. I like that. Alignment, I think, is a much better word. So Use alignment instead of clarity whenever possible for that. Because people don't need a prettier email or a prettier paragraph, right? They need to know what the direction is, what the truth is to move forward with, right? So that's more important than how pretty that paragraph looks. So we did talk a little bit negatively about AI in the last little paragraph kind of sentence structure that we just did. So now I kind of want to change that up a little bit and say AI is not bad. AI is not the problem. What it is it's outsourcing the ownership. As leaders, we have to own the responsibilities behind the decisions that we're making, right? So AI is not that problem. The problem starts when leaders are avoiding doing the work that only leaders can do. So we're going to play a little game. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. My question for you is, what is AI helpful with? How can it help leaders?
I think
Give me like 4.
I think again, data. If you're
Okay.
mining data, if you're going out and you got to get information, it can gather. Quickly. It can gather something that would take you and I days.
Yeah.
It can have done in minutes, and it can have all your sources, and it can be there. You can stick amount of data in this stuff, and it puts it out. Any of that stuff.
That's really good. And not even just like data when you think of like numbers or anything like that, but even like my meetings. I can go back through a meeting and have it generate action items, etc. So I love the data one. Okay, what else?
That stuff, it can help. And I think just it does. You can use it to help you get organized. And
Organization,
it
okay.
does help you put thoughts and things together to be quicker and gives you more time to put yourself into it. So used right, I think it's a great tool.
Okay,
When you
so
don't get lazy
Yes.
with it, right?
but so now I'm going to challenge you the opposite side. So tell me what AI cannot do that a leader needs to do.
So this is interesting because this ended up on my feed on LinkedIn this morning. So this is
Is this the
ironic.
message you sent me? I never got to.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I want to hear this story that I didn't
So
hear.
a lady was talking about someone lost their job, and the recruiting company, and they got told they lost their job because it wasn't needed. Well,
Oh, redundancy with
yeah,
AI.
well,
Okay.
but there was a recruiting company that was brought in actually to
What?
recruit for their job. That person got connected to that company because nobody went and read their profile. They put prompts in to get, however they did it, and they sent out emails. And so here this person was contacted.
Wait. This person who had just been laid
Lost
off and
it,
told
yeah.
that their job was redundant.
It's a big problem, right? But so the recruiter obviously was just mass using something and not taking the time,
Oh, wow.
right, to go look. And that was the point about this was, if someone would have took 2 minutes, you would have saw this person worked at the company just recently. So I think this goes to what
Yeah.
you stated, though. This goes to laziness. Let's just call it
It's
what it is. It's a tool to make us better. And if we use it correctly and put effort into it, it's going to give us time. It's going to give us what we need, but we can't get lazy with it because it can also make you look pretty bad.
Oh yeah,
And
very
we're
bad.
all learning. We're learning here today on how to use it. So we got to remember, put the effort and understand it before you go too fast. And I'll say, we're learning that on how we try to use certain things with it is, hey, you know what? You got to learn it before you move too
Yeah.
fast, and then you get behind and now you don't know what you're doing, right?
Absolutely. And I think, first of all, I feel so bad for that company because I can't imagine the lawsuit they're going to deal with. But I also think that one of the things that AI can't do in regards to clarity for leaders is they can't make the decisions. There's no judgment, right? Judgment has to be a human factor. It can't be a computer factor, for lack of a better term. Another one is trust. Trust is a big one, and that one's one I know that is important to you too.
Oh, yeah.
Trust is not built through AI. Trust is built through human connection. It's built through engagement. It's built through honest conversations. It's built through expectations, right? And we have to make sure that that does not get hung up on the whole clarity of AI kind of concept. The other thing, and I'd like to hear your take on this, is difficult conversations. This is one that I know leaders struggle with. No leader really wants to have those difficult conversations. And so I've seen too many leaders use AI for creating the clarity behind what they need to improve.
I mean, again, I'm going to repeat myself a little bit, but I think you can put your situation in, help it guide you, right? But you then have to you have to put your human response of coming through and helping you make sure that what you're delivering is on and is coming from you, right?
Okay, so I'm gonna push back on this one a little bit and say, are you saying to give you notes to be able to have a face-to-face? Because you should not be having difficult conversations over an AI generated chat email.
Yeah, no, totally not at all.
Okay, that's
Did-
okay. Just checking.
we're not-
I just want to be like, dear so and so, you are no longer. Yeah,
no,
like,
but
that
I
would be
think
terrible.
I think that's what it does. Where it's useful is the tool of putting your situation in,
Yeah.
helping you, and then again, ask it to be you. I mean, get it to be sounding like you, so you can use the right tone
Yeah.
and everything else, right?
And then I would still challenge you as a leader to go back through that communication before you use it. If you're having a face-to-face, if it's a recap email, whatever it is, but go back through it and say, is this clear? Do I have direction in this? Or is this something that's going to get more confusing because I'm using language that isn't something that the employee would understand? Right? So I think AI can organize the words, but it can't own the responsibility behind them. So being careful of that, I think, is good. Excuse me.
So, is the problem communication, or is it unmade decisions? So,
Ooh, okay.
are leaders sometimes blaming communication when the problem is they're not actually making decisions? So they're saying there was bad communication, but they're not really making any decisions.
Yeah.
This is a hard one because you got to listen to it.
It is, but absolutely, leaders cannot communicate clearly about decisions they have not made. And that is one of those that I read emails because in the line of work that I get to do, I'm brought in when there is that frustration, that friction, that chaos that's going on in the organization. Leaders are bringing me in and I want to see the communication that they've had, right? And what happens in those moments is sometimes leaders, they're not even explaining what the outcome is that they're looking for, right? Because they're uncomfortable about how to make that decision and to have that conversation. They leave their messages really vague. And nobody knows how to read a vague message. Like all of us have misinterpreted messages all the time, right? So vague is not good as a leader. And it's because they don't want to own the situation, right? And sometimes leaders, they keep explaining because they're uncomfortable deciding. That's another big one. So you get these very explanatory messages with no decision in it. So you're like, are we doing the project? Are we not? Is this direction? Did I get a promotion? Did I not? Who knows, right? That uncertainty is a problem, and it's very avoidable by making sure that leaders are having communication with their teams in a way that creates actual alignment, nice word choice, alignment within the organization. So yeah, I think it is a problem.
You know, I'll just add, if you're not willing to make that decision early on and your team's moving forward and now you want to come in and judge them later, times ran out, buzzer,
Yeah.
like that's the whammy. And that old show that we used to watch, Where's the Whammy? The Whammy comes out at that
Okay,
time.
I've never seen that show, so I have no idea.
I can't remember the name
I'm
of
gonna
it.
have to Google it afterwards because I have no idea what show you're talking
Where's the
about.
Whammy? I can't remember the name of it.
But you are right? If you're not going to make a decision early on and create that ability for them to align around it, you probably shouldn't try and come in after the fact and teach them how to do it. That's the same thing as starting a marathon with your team and then not telling them where they're going on the trail and watching them run off to In-N-Out Burger and then later get mad at them for doing that when you never gave them a direction to go.
That's a perfect example,
Like,
right? Like you
How
can't
is it
do
their fault that they're eating a double-double when you didn't tell them they're supposed to be at the bottom line? Like,
exactly.
There's a problem with that. So making sure that leaders understand they're in charge of setting direction and having decisive decisions inside of their communications is important. Okay, so a beautifully written email is not the same as leadership, and you kind of disagree with this thought.
Well, I mean, I think leadership's everything, and what I mean by that is leadership isn't just face to face. Leadership is when you're communicating. Leadership is when I'm not talking. So I think it's just to be a good leader and to continue to work to be a good leader, you got to work at everything. You got to work at the way you show up, what you do when you're not speaking,
The way you
the
communicate,
way you
also
communicate,
in written. Okay.
the way you communicate
I'll
with
stand-
email. So it's to
I'll
be a
stand
good leader.
corrected
I
on
mean,
that one.
honestly, I look at it as the goal is to try to be 80% a good leader every day, because I don't think any of us are. Leading people is one of the hardest things you're ever going to do, and to be a good
Oh,
leader,
hands
you
down.
gotta be willing to look at yourself more than anybody else to try to get better. And if you want to be the best leader you can be every day, you need to self-lead, and that's
Mm-hmm.
correct you and be the best leader you can be, and put others in the best situation for them to get better, right?
Yeah, I agree. But I will say that if employees have to interpret what you put or what you meant in a message when you send it out to them, they're carrying that burden, right, of communication. So be careful when, even if you're writing beautifully written emails, be careful that you're thinking of the person that's going to receive them. Make sure that you have an understanding of what you're trying to accomplish in that email, and then reread it a second time before you send it out to say, is this getting the point across? Does this make sense, so they know what to do with this communication? Because we are so busy in general in work environments, I don't have time for communication that's not action oriented. I don't. Right? I need my emails when they're coming in to tell me what needs to happen, what roadblock I need to remove, what the situation is, how they're doing. I don't have time for fluff, right? And I think as a society, we've gotten to that point.
Yeah, it's interesting as I hear you speak, Heather. I go back to, I wish we could gradually use email as not these full-fledged conversations.
Yeah.
Get up out of our offices. I hear someone tell me this all the time. They get up out of our offices, go have the conversation. I mean, I'll gonna take a trip back in time here. I remember running my first site, and I was working with someone that used to work at Mobile, and he was working by us. And this is right when email was coming around, and we were getting to use it. And I looked at him, and
Wow, you're
his-
aging yourself.
Yeah, well,
Just so you know.
I looked at him and I said, Bill, so what did you used to do when you used to run sites? He said, John, we would write letters and put them in the mail. But
oh, do you remember those
Yeah,
vanilla envelopes
so
that you put who
I
to
just-
and from, and you? Oh,
sometimes,
wow.
I mean, I think there's a little part when we do this, we're so, let's get up, let's start changing the culture that we so fastly took a hold of in this communication back and forth all the time and zinging emails. Go have the conversations.
And
You
I
know
will
what I
say
mean?
I appreciate that a lot from an HR perspective, but I will say you can't use we're a remote organization as an excuse not to do that, because it's absolutely just as possible to jump onto a
100%.
Google Meet, onto a Teams Meet, whatever, and face to face have a conversation with people and not just send them the quick chat or the email. So I don't think even remote employees can use that as an excuse. I 100% agree with you. I
One good
think-
thing out of COVID.
Well, you gotta have something, right?
Let's check the box.
Exactly.
So the clarity test, Heather, how would we be able to know we're just not using the word, but we're leaving a meeting actually with some clarity? How's that?
Clarity. So I would challenge you as leaders, before you end a meeting or you're sending out an important message, I want you to ask yourself, what decision was made? Is it clear in the email or the communication or the meeting, right? What outcomes are we trying to create? Who owns the next action items? And when will it be completed? What does success look like? And how and when will we follow up, right? So is a decision made? What's the outcome we're trying to create? Who owns the next items? When will it be completed? What does success look like? And how and when will we follow up? I think if we can do that on a regular basis and just do that checklist in our head or while we're rereading an email, it will make a huge difference to make sure that we are creating clarity for our employees and what's going on.
You just made me think. I mean, I wonder how many meetings that they're had every day throughout the world, that if you would just go through that, I would love to know the percentage of how many of every one of those boxes are checked. Because I'm going through my head. I'm I'm self right now looking in the mirror, right? Going, yeah, I better make sure I do that a little more.
We do. We need to. One, because we owe that to our teams to make sure that we are not just having a meeting to have a meeting. And this is an easy way to figure that out, because if you've done a couple meetings and you can't answer even half of these questions, you didn't need a meeting. You're not ready for a meeting. You could have done it in an email, or you sure the heck need to go back to the drawing board on what you're trying to create.
I mean, this needs to go on the door. Hey, before you leave, have you answered these questions?
It's not a bad
Before you
idea.
open this, right?
It's not a bad idea. But I think as leaders, it's our responsibility, right, to make sure that we are doing the clarity test before we send that communication, before we end that meeting. Because otherwise, people are going to leave the meeting going, what did I just spend my last hour plus doing, right? It's not worth it. You're wasting their time and yours.
And this is that when we want to get better, this is just that simple thing. This is, I mean, this is like taking ground balls, like in baseball. This is practicing your swing. This is the simple things that
You and your
all of a
sports
sudden,
analogies.
all of a sudden you get better. And I think that's sometimes we always like, hey, I want to be a better leader. What big nugget do I got to go find? Just answer these questions every day and then get out of the way, right?
Yeah, and if you can't answer these questions, slow down before you communicate.
Yeah.
Slow it down, because at the end of the day, your team will appreciate having it maybe later but clear, maybe later but aligned, as opposed to having a communication that they have no idea, and they go to their neighbor and they're like, what is Joe asking for here, right? That's a waste of a communication, and it starts to create frustration in your team because they're not sure what to do with that, right? So people need leaders who are willing to.
Oh, I get this one?
Yes, you do.
Okay, so, well, I mean, for me is people need leaders that are willing to empower them, set accountability, give them the ability to do what they need to do, make decisions on behalf of the customer without prior approval, with understanding what those steps are, and those are easy to be put in place. And leaders need to help people find their spot. And what I mean by that is this is Jimmy V said it, and we've talked about this lately, is
Yeah.
extraordinary people are ordinary people that do extraordinary things. And if we as leaders just went out and said, hey, I'm going to commit to finding everybody's extraordinary. How do I need to work with Heather for her to be extraordinary? And I think that just creates a whole different atmosphere. I mean, just by saying it, I get excited, right? Because when you create someone's extraordinary, their ability to go out, you take out the obstacles, you coach them, you teach them, you challenge them, and they grow, and you keep pushing the boundaries. Oh man, it's a fun environment.
So I will say what I took from that, because we are talking about clarity. You are so passionate about leadership. I love it. And I will say that that was absolutely leadership, right? So one of the things that I would say from the clarity perspective is make sure that you understand what your people are capable of, like you just said, right? Because that's part of clarity. Take those conversations, make sure that you're not only helping make the decisions, you're naming the expectations for them, telling the truth about what's still uncertain, giving them ownership, and then allowing them to become extraordinary while you're doing that. And then just check in and see that people are understanding and are in alignment with you.
Let them tell you when they need help. Don't say, well, no, you can't do that. And all of a sudden now you're the roadblock.
Yeah.
Sorry, another day.
That one obviously hits home for a reason.
Yeah, it does.
So I would say, let's give you guys a 1-minute habit. This is a 1-minute habit that we want each of you to do moving forward. So before you're pressing the send button or ending a meeting or moving on, take 1 minute and ask yourself, if someone repeated this back to me tomorrow, would they know what was decided, what they owned, and what happens next? Let me repeat that. 1 minute before you end a meeting, before you hit send, before you stop a communication or conversation. If someone repeated to me tomorrow what I said today, would they know what we decided, what they owned, and what happens next.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
It is. And I think what Heather's teaching us there is slow to go fast.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. Slow to go fast. We sometimes don't want to. And that's, I think, in a couple things, what you just stated is slow to go fast. Slow to get everyone to understand, and then you'll see the outcome. Don't speed through everything. That's
true.
really good.
Yeah.
So, real quick, throw in the comments one word that you hear and you're like, well, they used AI to create that. Is there a word that you see or a phrase that you're like, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure they didn't
Besides
double check.
clarity?
Besides
okay,
clarity.
so my other word besides clarity, while people are putting it into the prompt for the comments, my other word is thoughtful. If you've ever seen messages from me that say thoughtful, they're not from me. So AI, I don't know where it's coming from, but
Note taken.
ChatGPT will say things like, thank you for the thoughtful comment, or thank you for the thoughtful engagement. And I'm like, who says that in business? I mean, seriously, thoughtful is not a word I would use. I think another one that I find is, what was it? Strategy. What is it? Strategy prompts. And I'm like, what is a strategy prompt? Like, that one doesn't make any sense to me either. But I will tell you, the amazing media and marketing person that we get to work with, sometimes I can tell when Codex sends me the message and when she sends me the message, because it's super different and the language is different and even the communication style is different. So what I want you to take from that is your teams. Your teams see that. They know, 100% know if you sent that, or if your Codex, ChatGPT, OpenClaw, whatever it is, sent it. So be careful not to just automatically copy and paste things in or hit send from there.
Especially when you're leading your teams, I think you gotta make sure that it's from you. I mean, you gotta use it. It's a tool, but it's got to be you when you're leading. Otherwise, to what you stated earlier in the beginning of this, people see through it, and now you're going to lose it.
Yeah, I would say data is one area, like, which is what our marketing person usually sends us is data. So it's just a joke between us about that. But data, absolutely. Forwarding data is not an issue or a problem because that's all you're doing. But put the message with it so people know what the heck to do with the data. I think that's important too. So just a reminder, AI can help organize your thoughts, but it cannot take responsibility for any of the conversations that you're having. Leaders create clarity because they're making the decisions. They're setting the expectations, they're owning it, and they're helping develop the next steps, right? Not polished language alone, but truly making sure that you as a leader understand your ownership in the communication process. Anything you'd add to that?
No, I
Okay.
think you've nailed it with clarity.
Yeah, so I would say clarity is a buzzword that AI uses that I can't stand, right? It's just a word that I don't think has a lot of purpose. I love the idea of alignment instead, but creating clear understanding and expectations is important. The word clarity is never going to get you to get a clear understanding of what that next steps are for people to move forward.
You got to have the meat and potatoes behind it.
So use the tool, but keep the judgment, right? Have the conversation. Your people don't need a perfect word or email. What they need is to hear from you about the right way forward.
Yeah, well, Heather, that's good because I think we brought some real clarity to this conversation.
Oh God, you just ruined it all.
We appreciate everybody showing up today. We really enjoyed this. Thank you for being here for the clarity conversation, and we hope you can take pieces from this and move forward. Thank you.
Take care.